Hey, welcome back everybody. Well, great news. I will be able to show the modifications I do to the Hot Toys Darth Vader from episode 4 in a step-by-step video, because I had a client who requested me to do that for him, and so I'll be documenting my process. So you'll get to see the helmet modifications, water treatment, electronics of course, metal wire that needs to be removed from the robe and sewed in a different place. Stick around and let's get cracking. I invested in the best reference I could find, the original trilogy Star Wars costumes book. This is the reference for Darth Vader. You know what, guys? I'm beginning to think that there's been some modifications by Hot Toys to the New Hope Darth Vader, because the earlier versions I worked on had a lot flatter paint and the dome was sitting a lot higher. Alright, let's take her apart. Take off the helmet, get the cape, put that aside. That'll only need some water treatment later. This one's going to need a lot of paint. Now be very careful with this belt because it is quite vulnerable. But as you can see, it really does work as a belt that you could just clip on and clip off. Then we take off the robe. I feel like I'm playing with the Barbies. Ridiculous. Anyway. This stuff needs to go. Careful as always. There's Velcro behind this, so just rip that off. We'll be polishing up these bits because they need to be a lot shinier than this. Velcro here. Take that off. We'll be cutting into these seams a bit. They can be trimmed down. They need to be trimmed down, really. Like so. Take off the gloves and hands. Those will need work as well. And here we get to the figure. This is where we will access the speech module, power that up, and we will be cutting into these bits because, as you could have seen from the picture when it came straight out of the box, the arms don't go straight down quite enough, especially with the suit on, so we'll be working on that. Okay, so now it's time to access the helmet, which means taking it apart. I suggest taking your time with it and making sure you distribute the pressure evenly, which means grabbing a hold of the top side of his dome as much as possible and just start moving it back and forth. You can hear the glue joints creaking, and then slowly but surely you will be able to access the helmet, which is what we want for the placement of the dome, as well as a neat trick. I'm going to try to get the red or amber lenses that are in here to show better, light up better, or well, not light up, but I'll show you what I mean. So far I've done this about 6 times, haven't had a failure yet, so let's hope this one time on camera is not going to be any different. Almost there. Or, as I should say, almost there. Almost there. Too corny? Nah. Here we go. This is different too. This looks like, I don't know, super glue residue or something. Okay? I can definitely tell some things have been changed by Hot Toys since the last Darth Vader I opened up. Like I said, this glue is different, the residue definitely. Anyway, I like this flat, broad plier that really fits in here nicely. Now that I've gotten a little bit of an opening in the seam thanks to the pliers, I can cut a little bit more of the glue. Alright, one more try with the pliers. Can you tell? It's already coming apart. Okay, now slowly. See? Gorgeous. Cool. So one thing we can see now that the back is off the helmet is that the lenses are actually amber colored. The problem is, as soon as you lock it up in what literally is a black hole, they turn black. So to counter that a little bit in the right light, I have a little piece of bare metal foil. I'll put it in a link in the description so you can get some too. It's a great tool to have for any hobbyist really, and that just sticks on the back of the lenses, and that'll give us some reflection of the light instead of the black hole, which means in a certain light the lenses will light up. Like that. Peel it off. Place it on the edge of your knife. The rough placement inside the mask. Then the Q-tip. And you will notice that that's the beauty of this foil. You can really shape it to any surface, and you'll be surprised at how far you can mold it or bend it before it'll break or snap. So if you look inside, there's a beautiful smooth metal finish, and as you can see now, both eyes have this reflective film inside. Alright, so let's compare it to a screenshot. I put the helmet back together again loosely without glue, and here's a New Hope still, and as you can see, the helmet needs to go lower, and we need to do some weathering, and one of the tusks is completely black, and as you can see in the screenshot, there is some paint that came off. Apparently the one looks more silver than the other, but it shouldn't be all black either. Looking at the armor, it looks straight out of Return of the Jedi. Complete, shiny, beautiful, brand new. And if we look at the screenshot here, it's supposed to be a lot coarser, weathered, flatter, so that requires a lot of work as well. So looking at the side here, you can see we need to really lower the dome quite a bit. Alright, to gain access to the nose plug, which needs to go deeper, get some pliers and remove the clear plastic. Also glued in, so take your time. There you go. So now that I've removed the material behind the nose plug, I can just start pushing. And it comes out, so I can now replace the plug in a deeper position after I've reshaped everything to be more movie accurate. Now I will take this chance to also thin out the walls around the nose just a little bit in the front to make sure that that's more movie accurate as well. So for that I have this very small round file, and I just very subtly start working on the edges, and don't go too deep because you still want the original nose plug to fit. Alright, so let's reinsert the nose. and I like to use a Polymax glue in here because it has filling properties. And let's set it where it should be. Now it is recessed. Alright, before you glue back the helmet, the mask, be sure to replace this part, otherwise you can't put the helmet on the neck. Then use super glue to put this together. Now, I'm not sure I mentioned this before, but glue choice is a very important thing when doing anything. Things like the gluing surface, how well the pieces fit together, whether there's gaps, whether there's going to be stress on the joints, are all very relevant to what glue to use. For instance, super glue doesn't work if it has to bridge any gaps, so you have to have a really good and tight fit, which this thing has. It doesn't handle shear forces very well. So it only works if you have a mask like this that once in place won't move again. And as you could have probably seen, I put a few dabs on a container and used my micro applicators, so I don't get all kinds of glue squeeze out and glue where I don't want it. So there's a few tips for you there. Always be sure to use the glue that is appropriate to your situation. So to glue on the dome, we will not be using super glue, because after we've shaved off, it's not going to be a perfect fit anymore. So the next step is making sure the dome goes as low as it does in the movie. Means shaving off a little bit of the top of the mask and then the inside of the dome. So we got our trusty Dremel again. I like using this sanding speed disc. So here we go. Okay, now that's done. So if you look in the proper light inside the dome, you see these ridges, and if you don't remove the ridges, then you can shave off all the top you want from the mask, but those ridges will prevent the dome from sitting lower, so the inside ridges are gotta go too. Again, Dremel. So to glue it on, I'm using a polymer glue that has excellent filling properties, which is what we want, because we've created a joint now that isn't a perfect fit like the way it left the Chinese Hot Toys factory. So again, be very mindful of the force, young Padawan. Now be very mindful of what type of glue to use for what type of application, how well is your fit, what stresses are going to be on the joint, etc., etc. So we need a, look at that, look at those eyes, that looks cool, man. We need a low fit and slightly asymmetrical. It does vary throughout the movie how it sits, but it never sits straight, so I like to have it low and slightly to the right, as the screenshot I'm using for a reference most of the time. Okay, so let's look at this movie still. And as you can see now, we are pretty much there with regard to the dome placement. You see the eyes have the proper color now compared to the movie still. But let's direct your attention to this area. You can see that there's wear and tear around the corners of the mask, so we're going to try to replicate that with some paint and dry brushing. Another advantage is that this will probably highlight a lot more of the mask, of the raised edges, of the general shape, instead of it just being a big black blob of things. So we'll also be heightening the contrast between the black and the gunmetal, as those who might not be familiar with the way the mask was painted, it was painted much like a clown's face, where this is gunmetal, then this is gunmetal, and this, so there's a pattern that goes left and right. So the left eye socket is painted in gunmetal, the right is in black, the left cheek is in black, the right is in gunmetal, and the same goes for this side. It's supposed to be gunmetal to get more contrast between the different parts of the mask. So gunmetal, black, gunmetal, black, gunmetal, black. As you can see, for instance here, there's a great lack of gunmetal. So we'll be working on that as well. All these little steps will add to the realism. And again, by the way, let me draw your attention. It's not very clear in this picture, but let's just look at this tusk. That's definitely not black. This one is. If I find another one here, it's definitely not black, though clearly less silver is on here than on that, so we need to replicate that. Yeah, so let's get to work. And while we have the proper colors out, like this Vallejo gunmetal, the 70.863, you'll find a link to that proper paint in the description. We're going to be using our dry brush on the armor as well. We need to get those two shades closer, so we're going to be using this gunmetal color on both the silver and the black, and this is going to be semi-dry brushing, which means there's going to be a little bit more paint on it than normal. The beauty is that around the edges you'll also get a little bit more black, so that's going to look like wear and tear. Great, like that. Really brush it in there until it's a smooth surface. Make sure you brush with the grain, if you know what I mean. So that's already better. We need to get that gloss black down to a flat black with regards to the shoulder armor. So our gunmetal is going to help with that too. And after we've done that, we can also get some more detail going here by using a lighter gray. So I have a medium gray and a sky gray here. That's going to help make those details stand out in the proper light. So we're going to create the effect of paint rub around the edges. Use your finger exactly at an angle to get a very thin line there. Like that. I hope it shows up on camera. You'll see it in the final picture though, definitely. I also like highlighting these tubes a little bit. Again, a little goes a long way. As well as these edges. So, as you can see now, this area really pops more because the paint suggests a little bit of paint rub. It looks great. Slow going, easy does it. Use your hands and other utensils to shape what you're doing. So all we need is a little bit of suggestion that this mask has been worn, so the angles, the edges will be damaged most, like everything that wears and tears. And the beauty of it is that it's going to highlight all the lines in the mask a lot more. So by doing the bottom and the top edge of something like the mask, you would also enhance the thickness of it. And again, all the lines in this black mask can use help to show the beautiful sculpt by, I think, Mr. Brian Muir, I'm not sure. The Widow's Peak, also with the dark medium gray around the edges to get that lived in New Hope kind of feel. And to enhance the gunmetal to silver ratio on the mask, we'll be using our trusty TAMIYA Weathering Master, the C kit with the gunmetal and the silver, like it was made for this application. Get to Q-tips, get some more, because you're going to need more than one most likely. Just a little bit on the tip, and then remember silver, 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 and black, 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 and just slowly build this up. Well, you can also already see on the see the difference between the right cheek and the left cheek. I've slightly exaggerated the lighting on the camera so you can see better. See the red in the eyes and the silver. Do the same here. Just the top of the left cheek. See how you can already see the difference? And then this side. With the silver. And then for the gunmetal, that's this lower edge. Good. So now we need a little bit of black on this cheek. To enhance the contrast and difference. And as you can see, the silver gunmetal, black, silver gunmetal, and on this side too, you see exactly as the paint job intended. Now let me tone down the lighting on the camera to what it really is going to be, and as you can see in the normal type of lighting, it's just enough to get a little bit of contrast in the black mask. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful. We're going to build a ball around it. It's going to be epic. Darth Vader couldn't do a better job himself. It's going to be epic. Alright, with the paint out, next up is the shoulder armor again. So we'll be dry brushing a little bit of gray into the black as well. Anytime you feel it's become too much, just dab at it with your finger. And then get your gray colored micro applicator and just go around these edges. dabbing at them with your finger. Get this corner weathered. And I like showing off these beautiful curves. And just in general, get a little bit more of a lived-in feel. I don't know how that shows up on camera, but in person, it's already looking better. Still need to do something about the contrast. So, get our dry brush with the gunmetal gray again. Dry brushing means getting most of it off the brush before you apply it. Like that. Now, because this is a new Hope Vader, the robe is going to sit outside the armor. The only movie that has that, really, Episode 3, Rogue One, Episode 5 and 6 all have the robe underneath the shoulder armor. But that means anywhere from here onward, you're not going to be seeing anything of the shoulder armor. So really concentrate on this area. Dry brushing the gunmetal on all areas, both black and silver, will bring them closer together, which is what we want. Because, let me show you the reference photo again. As you can see, there's really not much contrast going on between them at all. Alright, time to get our Vallejo silver. You might remember, if you've watched any of my other videos, this is the stuff to use for paint chipping and any real silver you want. So that's the metal color 77724. Again, you'll find a link below the description. Each color gets its own micro applicator, so here we go. Good thing these things are cheap. And we'll be enhancing the silver on both tusks, by the way. Just have to make sure that the silver on the right tusk stands out more, because that's the way it is in the movie. Not entirely black on the left. So now tune down the left tusk a little bit. Yeah, as you can see now, both have silver, but the right tusk is clearly has more silver, it clearly looks bigger. Yeah, so getting pretty happy with the way this is turning out. So almost ready to close off video 1 and move on to video 2 for the robe and the body treatment, and then video 3 for the electronics. Otherwise you'll be sitting behind your screen too long for all those steps. It's a lot of work, but I think it's worth it. And, well, my client is paying for my time and maximum effort, so I thought, if I'm going to be doing one for a client, let's just make sure you guys get to come along for the ride. So now that the weathering is done, we'll be painting the inside flat black. And once that dries, that'll be perfect. So one final thing I like to do is get my Cape Cod polishing cloths to get a little bit more shine on the helmet, because especially the version 1 that came out of, it depends on which one you got from Hot Toys really, but the version 1 was totally flat, way too flat, and the version I'm holding right now is already better, but a little bit of shine goes a long way here. And this is something that is easy for everyone to do. You don't need any extra tools for that. So that's some great stuff. Take off the polish. And it's still not Return of the Jedi shiny, but there's a little bit more gleam, as you can tell, to the helmet as we see in the movie. Now check out this final shot. I think it looks pretty good. The armor looks a lot more New Hope than Return of the Jedi. We get the beautiful red glow in the eyes that we want. The helmet has a little bit more shine to it, but there is damage. I don't know if it shows up in this light. Then there's the clear difference between the gunmetal black and gunmetal again, so that's what we want. All in all, I'm happy. Alright, so some pictures from the Hot Toys Facebook page. On the top row, bottom row, the screen caps from A New Hope. You see the constant surprised look on the Hot Toys figure with the dome sitting much too high. There's no red coming through the lenses as you should see. In the screen caps, there's no real weathering, so that needed to be done. The nose plug is sitting too much forward compared to this movie stills, and the armor isn't looking very accurate. So let's compare that to the work we've done so far after modifications. Again, the screen caps on the bottom row, and then on the top row you can see what we did so far. The dome is sitting lower, it's buffed out a little bit more, there's weathering going on, the nose plug is recessed, you can see the amber red color coming through the lenses in most shots. So given the limitations of the sculpt, with the triangle being too small and the dome shape slightly off, I still think we've done a pretty good job so far. So please share, like, and subscribe, and you can support me by buying everything I used for this clip through the links below at Amazon. Thanks again, and see you in video 2 of the Darth Vader modifications.